What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Landlord Society podcast. I'm Charlie, you're here with HDK, and we help people replace their income through the Landlord Academy through the Australian property market. Now, today we're going to be talking about some of the boom locations, some of the hot property locations that we feel are going to provide the best opportunity for property investors moving forward. Handol, you got some pretty interesting findings for us. Can't wait to share this with you guys. This is pretty exciting because you know, this is pretty exclusive information. Some of these locations I feel are going to do extremely well in the near future. You know, the next 6 months to the next 3 years. We like to look for short-term growth and long-term growth moving forward. Okay, those key supply and demand metrics is something that we've taken into consideration.
That's right.
So, Handol, spill the sauce.
Let's
have a look. Let's talk about these locations.
This is some hot sauce.
It is very spicy sauce that we like.
Spicy hot sauce.
Yeah.
Red hot. All right, boys and girls. We are in for a ride. Strap yourselves in. If you haven't done so, make sure you drop us a follow. Hit that subscribe. And join us on Instagram and on our Discord. We've been sharing this information with our community, which has been really, really exciting. So, and the way you would do that is by through the Instagram. Yeah, they know what to do.
I think so.
Yeah.
They know the drill.
They know the drill.
I think that's a good start.
Yeah, cool. Today, we start off. We're going to be looking at 3 different states to start off our discussion today. We may squeeze you in the 4th bonus, but stay tuned for that one. But look, we've actually got our hands on a report done by CBRE. CBRE is one of the biggest valuer companies in Australia. If anyone's looked at property from a valuation perspective, it would be this company.
Okay,
CBRE.
so, yeah.
No, CB Richard Ellis. That's right. So they've done a report on based on Q1 insights 2024, and they're looking at what that would entail for the future as well. So we're gonna have a very much of a helicopter view, and then we're gonna look at we're gonna actually pry and drill into some of the real suburbs as well. Just sort of iron off what could be the good growth out there. Also, just want to caveat, this is a non-financial advice podcast. This is an educational podcast.
Okay. Consider these locations, don't go in blindly. These are locations that ourselves as property investors are looking to purchase in the near future as well.
Absolutely.
So bear that in mind.
Absolutely. And also what we won't go through is the exact types of properties that need to be purchased in these areas because of time constraints. However, it is also very important that you actually match the type of property with the area that you're going for.
Exactly,
but we are looking at these areas as very strong growth amongst many available in Australia, of course. So let's actually take this on with a pinch of salt, but we are actually showing a lot of value. So stay tuned till the end of the video, of course. So according to CB Richard Ellis, some of the areas of growth, strong to very strong demand over the last 3 months past. Okay, Perth is coming at number 1.
Okay, yep.
Very, very
Not
strong,
surprised by that.
Yeah, very, very strong. Adelaide is at number 2. Brisbane Metro at number 3. Brisbane Outer Metro at number 4. Gold Coast and Sunny Coast at number 5. Tasmania, Sydney Metro, Sydney Outer Metro, Melbourne Metro, and Melbourne Outer Metro and ACT. Okay. We've got right now the most active buyers in the market, over the last 3 months is the first home buyers, and then it's the upgraders, and then it's the local investors, and then it's the downsizers, and then it's the interstate investors, and then interstate migrants, and then overseas migrants, and then lastly developers. So developers have been pretty quiet over the last 3 months, which is interesting. Okay, so in terms of the increase in demand, where we're going to see most of that increase in demand over the over the next sort of 12 months or so, is number 1 sitting at Perth. Okay, so there is a good chunk of valuers out there that about 30% of them, they think that the valuation will increase by more than 10% in Perth. Okay, increase by between 5 and 10%. About 60 respondents are saying that that's what the situation is going to be in Perth. Second is Sydney Metro. Okay, so there's about 10% of respondents that think that it's going to increase by more than 10%. Mind you, valuers are typically, out of the entire industry, are the most sort of, if you sort of stack it up against real estate agents and, bankers and, and the likes and conveyancers, lawyers, whatever, and accountants, valuers are probably the most conservative when it comes to their outlook. So they think that Sydney Metro is going to be second. Adelaide is going to be third, where 40% of respondents have said that it's going to increase by value between 5 and 10%. Brisbane Metro, Gold Coast and Sunny Coast, Sydney, Melbourne Metro, Tasmania, and Brisbane, Outer and ACT in its order. So we're looking at really Perth, Adelaide, and Brisbane. as our target areas for today. Okay, we're going to discuss that based on this sort of outlook. Okay, and obviously it drills down into sort of what different types of properties we'll do. But today's focus is obviously on location. So let's start with WA.
Let's do it.
Starts with WA.
Perth is all the rage.
Perth is all the rage at the moment. So a bit of caveat with Perth is that there has been a lot of growth. I think that there is a lot of room left in it.
Yeah,
it'll just come down to your property selection. But some of the hottest areas that we like is Mandurah.
Mandurah.
I like to call it Mandurah because I think it's a little bit of character. Mandurah. I like Mandurah very much.
Okay.
I like Rockingham.
Rockingham
Very much. I like the pocket between Canning Vale and Armidale.
Yes, that is.
Yep. And for those of you who are sitting there thinking, oh, these are disgusting suburbs, whatever, guys.
Good. Let them think that.
Let them think that. Just whatever. Guys, we're here to make money. Okay.
We're here to do the right decision.
And if anyone's bought in Armidale in the last 12 months, right? None of them. They're going to laugh at you.
Median is like growth. I think it's been like 30%.
30%. Yeah. So look, and that's where the growth is. Where the weakness is, there's the growth. So these are the areas that we're looking at right now. If we look at, for example, Mandurah. Okay, we'll just talk about Mandurah for now. Mandurah it's a nice area. It's actually a really nice area.
Mandurah's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah, there's an interesting reputation there. Like it's never been known to be a high socioeconomic area. However, there are pockets within Mandurah that are, that appeal to retarees, wealthy people as well. So it's actually quite nice.
It is a nice area. Yeah. And Charlie, you grew up in WA.
Yeah, right? I did, yes.
Yeah.
From Perth.
Perth. Yeah. So you know that area pretty well.
Yeah.
And the thing about Mandurah is that it's got water.
Yeah, it has.
And
we like being near water.
Yeah, people like being near water, and it's actually not that far from the CBD.
It's about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually not so bad at all. And if we look at some of the returns there, the rental yields are actually quite high. So for those of you who want to be neutrally or positively geared, there's a good opportunity for you to do that there. And what we look at is that, yes, it has had a very strong growth over the last 12 months. But what gives me more confidence into the future is its current demand. So the demand ratio that we've calculated is sitting on about 40 to 1. So there's 40 buyers to one house at the moment. Okay.
Strong.
Yeah. And look, and the median prices are very, very much affordable. And a lot of the offerings that you're going to get is going to come locked in with quite a lot of land offering as well, which is really, really awesome. And also, and what we do is we can actually compare the types of properties that they're going for. So between 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom homes is that 4 bedrooms, there is a lower demand, but there's also a lower supply of them as well. Okay, which is really interesting. And there is a good about 60-40 split across 3 to 4 bedroom properties as well. So which means that there's a growing demand for these 4-bedroom homes, which means there's growing demand for owner occupiers in the area as well.
Owner occupied demand. Yeah.
Which is what you want to see, and there's a growing element.
That's sustainability and growth.
Yeah, exactly right. And so the stock is reducing as well in the area. So there's less and less stock, but there's more and more buyers that seem to be coming into the area. Yeah. That demand isn't going to dry up just like that. We've discussed it in the previous episode as well. But when it comes to demand for housing, that's not something that dissipates out of one news article. It's something that's built up over years of conditioning, ideas, and affordability, and around household, not just a single person's opinion. So based on that, the demand that we're seeing, especially that multiple, is actually quite high. A really good value add opportunity in some of these properties as well, seeing that there is current demand as well as the type of stock that you're getting through the property. So these are some exciting numbers. Obviously, rental growth is also quite poignant when it comes to considering property demand as well. But when rental currently there's about 10 renters to a house at the moment. 10 potential tenants to our house at the moment. That's quite a lot.
Yeah,
those are active renters at the moment. So that's a really, really exciting area within Perth, and I think it being a beach town, and once that gentrification comes through, it's going to be very, very hot to be owning a property.
Whoa, hold up, Landlord Society. Are you sick and tired of the rat race and you want to start building wealth with property and generate passive income?
Then come and drop us a follow on Instagram and DM us the word landlord.
The word what, Charlie?
The word landlord, like the Landlord Society.
Okay, wait, Charles, what's our Instagram handle again?
At landlord.society.
You heard him, everybody. DM us the word landlord to our Instagram to learn more about property investing. Now back to the podcast.
Yeah.
In Mandurah. Okay. What I might do is we might switch over to a different sort of. We're seeing sort of similar numbers in the other suburbs that we did mention. So do keep an eye on those suburbs too. But we might actually swing over to SA now.
All right, let's do South Australia.
South Australia. So very exciting in South Australia. Some of the opportunities I'd say would lie within
best locations in South Australia.
Yeah. So I think South Australia, we're still looking at around about that Playford region.
Okay.
Yeah, Playford region. That encompasses areas like, Elizabeth, Blakeview, and, Hillbank, potentially even including Davern Park as well. But having said that, yes, again, one of those very weaker suburbs here. But the offering there is quite strong. The growth has been very, very strong as well. And properties turn up there very, very quickly with lots of off-market transactions happening, as I can observe here.
Okay.
So, it's in the suburbs that I did mention already, we are seeing ranges of, medium price ranging, up to $200,000. So it's something as low as that, sort of that, mid 400s to something as high as like, mid 600s that we see. And the good thing about this is that when suburbs are so close to each other that have massive price differences, well, then the cheaper suburbs are going to start playing catch ups to that as well.
Yes. Yep.
So those are sort of the opportunities that we're seeing.
It's like a dragging effect.
Exactly right. And look, there is a stark undersupply in this area. That's why a lot of properties get handed over off market, and that data points don't often get logged in to some of the softwares that we have access to. However, but having said that, there's about 100 multiple.
Okay.
100 multiple. So there's about 100 buyers to a particular house at the moment in Elizabeth at the moment, and I suspect it's probably because of a lot of interstate demand.
Yep.
Yeah. So for those of you who are sort of looking at these suburbs and going, "Oh, that's a disgusting suburb," well, you haven't seen the money there, mate. So that's why. Yeah. That's why.
That is crazy supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly right. So I've actually we are abreast of all the conversations with the local real estate agents, especially in this part of Australia. And our finding is that the market is red hot at the moment, and that demand isn't going anywhere. And for that, I wouldn't be surprised to see yet another 10-15% growth over the next 12 months. Not to mention, it has probably one of the best rental growth curves in Australia, very steady growth. And in the last 12 months have been very, very strong in its growth as well, which is very, very encouraging to see.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the whole area is sort of, I can see that, the government's putting in infrastructure. What's been announced and what's being done has been very, very encouraging in terms of its gentrification. And it is that change of that environment is what I'm observing as a potential opportunity for South Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so there is a couple more suburbs that I could mention, but let's swing over to Queensland for now.
Yep, Queensland. Let's do it.
Yeah,
best locations in Queensland.
Best locations in Queensland. So Queensland is a very exciting state. We are potentially, investing around the Olympics. Have
major demand.
Yeah, major demand for that. Olympics do bring in a lot of economic activity.
Yeah.
And
a lot of stimulus.
And internationally, that strategy has been proven to be very, very successful.
Yeah.
Right. So every time that is a really good medium-term strategy to get in. I don't think the prices have reflected onto it just yet, but having that foresight is another good skill to have for property investors.
Yeah.
Of course.
Something to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Something to keep an eye on. That's right. So in Queensland, basically, there's a very, very interesting landlocking opportunity, and the opportunity that I see is sort of in the area below sort of Sunnybank, towards your Gold Coast, that area. So the Gold Coast is a place of heat, and you've got your Brisbane CBD, which is another sort of place of heat, and that's going to generate a lot of value. And basically any suburb that sort of connects between those two lines is in a good place of landlocking with limited supply of land. We're looking at property prices around that, about a high sort of 500s.
Yep.
But because of the limited supply and the growth that we're seeing in both of these cities, right, Brisbane and your Gold Coast, and that information is very, very, our outlook is very consistent with the professionals' outlook as well, with CBRE and their reports. So any of those pockets there is going to be seeing quite a lot of demand and growth as well. It inevitably has to. We're seeing also pockets of strong growth in areas like Ipswich at the moment. But when areas like Ipswich is growing and is pumping, and and we see because of the numbers of childcares that are moving into that and getting developed in that region as well. But if you actually look at the pocket between Brisbane and Gold Coast, whatever area that you can afford between that, with a nice house offering, with a nice with a good selection that's gonna have longevity in property, that's going to be the area that you want to be hitting hard.
Man, that makes sense.
Rental yields aren't as strong in these areas compared to the other suburbs that we've already mentioned, but there's definitely opportunity and strategies that you can implement to actually increase that, because there are educational institutions that are available in between that, where there could be increased demand for housing on probably a shorter term or a smaller scale basis as well, and also a lot of opportunity for development and subdivision too.
So you can increase your yields whilst getting the growth.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And the market is ready to digest that. So we've seen areas like Logan Central. We've looked at areas like Acacia Ridge. So basically all the pockets there. Queensland has a lot of different little suburbs, but basically that pocket is sort of what you're looking at, and there will be some pockets that will outperform the others, but we're looking at on a general basis.
We don't have the actual crystal ball. But if again, like. We are giving you the closest thing to it based on objective data.
Exactly right. And I think around there is good. And if you're setting yourself up for a property acquisition in the area where you think it's going to be benefiting you, and you can actually position your cash flow in a way that you're not actually out of pocket so much, right? With the bank's interest and whatnot, and you actually do qualify to own a property there, well, jump into it, and then. In the medium to long term, your interest rate is going to turn in your favor, and you've got the Olympics that are coming in as well. So I think Queensland investment is going to be a pretty solid one, especially in these locations, depending on the properties that you do select. And of course, we have a bonus.
Let's do Victoria.
Okay.
Best locations in Victoria.
I know a lot of our listeners are from Victoria because of population, of course. But having said that, I think the skill in property investing comes down to your ability to set up a dream team in every state, like in a localized way. So
by the way, you don't need to invest in your state.
Yes. That's I mean, there are, depending on the state that you're in, there could be land tax implications that could blow out your land tax liability because you own multiple properties within one state. So
true.
I think if you are well equipped for it, which we are training our students to be able to do, and being able to pick up opportunities and money and equity from multiple states could actually be one of the strategies that optimizes your land tax liabilities.
Super powerful.
Because of this evil thing called amalgamation. Am I right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at Victoria, and I think a really good opportunity for Victoria, and unfortunately for Victoria is that there's a lot of it's very expensive in Victoria. It's very expensive in Victoria, and it's we're gonna have Sydney all over again in Victoria, I think.
It's like when it's like the suburbs that are affordable tend to be shitcoin regional suburbs. It's getting to that stage.
It's getting to that very speculative stage. But if I were to be able to sort of dip a little bit deeper into my pockets and jump into a market like Victoria, I'll be looking at areas like Cranbourne. Okay. Cranbourne is that southeastern suburb, and if you go any further than Cranbourne, you're going to hit the coast. Basically, geographically, if you actually look at the map, Cranbourne is basically the last sort of metropolitan suburb before you start hitting the beach. So it's still quite accessible. It's nearby, sort of that sort of, I wouldn't say it's nearby, but it's definitely quite far from the CBD. But it is closer to it is still reasonably close to some of the very busy suburbs that sort of distance itself away from the CBD to actually start generating more activity there as well. So when I look at Cranbourne, the supply and demand ratio is there. The pricing in Cranbourne in terms of median house prices has been correcting itself. So it was overheated at a point in time, but it's sort of, if you look at the graph, it's kind of funny. It looks like a stock chart. it sort of is kind of consolidating.
Okay.
And then I think at this point in time, people are going to capitulate and understand that actually Cranbourne is a pretty decent place to be. There's good opportunities there. The price is still affordable. We're going to still have to shoot around that 600 to mid 600s in property acquisition for a decent property down there.
Yeah.
But if you find something like that, you would be able to hit as well as being neutrally geared and being able to ride that equity curve up.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's what we like to see.
that's right.
Yeah.
And because of its landlocking opportunity there, and just sort of the employment that goes around, it's a really, really exciting.
Let's
area to
really
invest.
quickly touch on landlocking, because I know what it is. You know what it is.
Yeah, of course.
There's probably some new listeners here that don't know what the hell landlocking even means.
Landlocking is
Give it to me
Yeah.
in 15 seconds.
Yeah, okay, cool. So landlocking is a very interesting concept where the area that you're looking at cannot create any more supply of land
Cool.
effectively.
Cool. So people still want to be in that area, but there might be a beach or a coastline
Exactly.
that's stopping the supply from expanding.
Exactly right. So, and that often attracts a lot of demand and caps supply.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
what will happen is, let's say there's a city. Okay, if we look at, for example, like a city like Adelaide, for example, you got the Adelaide CBD, and then towards the west is a bunch of land and people living in that land. There's the airport as well, which it takes up a huge chunk of land towards the west, and then boom, it's the beach. So you can't actually create any more houses towards the beach anymore, right?
Yep.
So that beach basically landlocks every opportunity within the western suburbs.
Exactly.
And then towards the east of Adelaide, you got the really high hills, right? So it goes flat and then boom, comes up the hills.
Similar to Perth then.
Exactly right. Yeah, we see traits of this across. There are landlocked suburbs in every state in Australia. So if we look at it that way, then you see that there's a limited supply of them. And typically in these areas, if you can find something affordable, you jump in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
And to be honest, in Adelaide, there are growth pockets in this area. And the reason why I haven't talked about it in light of Adelaide is because it is incredibly expensive. So the growth will be there, but the entry won't be there for you.
Yeah.
That's why I have taken it out of this podcast.
Yeah.
Depending on your budget, we can set you up with any kind of strategy, of course, right? Like, dude, if you got like a $1.5 million budget, we'll tell you where to go, right? But that'll be different to if you come to us with a $500,000 budget, then we'll tell you to go somewhere else, right? No, it's not to hell because it sounded like I'm like go to, no, but there is there is a strategy for people anywhere up from $300,000, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. Even $200,000, we can set you up with a good strategy, right? In terms of property, you want to make money. In fact, I think we have a strategy for people who can't even buy properties, actually.
Yeah.
Typically something that we don't work with, but we have had to resort down to that level, and people have done incredibly well, not even owning a property, making money through the property, which is a bit left field. But yeah, most of the strategies that involve purchasing a property, we can establish a strategy of anywhere from $300,000 upwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in terms of budget.
There's also strategies like partnering with the right person or joint ventures and things like that, which you can leverage. You got to be creative.
Absolutely.
But if you want to hone the strategy, that's how we help people do that.
Exactly right. And just to sort of cover off on the conversation around Cranbourne in Victoria, is that there is a massive demand multiple there.
Right.
Okay. So there's about 300 buyers to one house there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, currently. And so if that was to be stripped down to half, you got 150 buyers to one house still.
Yeah,
so that's quite a lot.
Yeah,
that's actually quite a lot. So, having said that, it's going to be, depending on the type of stock that we're looking at, that is, right, not on a market basis, but on the type of stock that we are looking for, there's actually quite a lot of buyers at the moment in that particular area. Very, very, very hot demand indeed. So, and obviously the rental market for this area has shown some incredible growth in recent times. That means that there's going to be a lot of immigrants and people trying to cross suburban or within the local state or interstate demand immigration that are actually coming to the area. I'm not sure whether there be a different nationality or not, but the data we're seeing is that suburb is increasing population very, very quickly. Not from a population data point of view, because it's hard to collect suburb specific population data unless we do another census in Australia, but we can see that from the rental demand that's been spiking in the area.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Great stuff, guys. So these are some of the hot areas that we'll be looking at. We will be supplicating some of these data points within our Discord channel. So if you'd like to join that, the best way to find out about that community is through our Instagram.
Yep,
right.
the drill at thelandlord.society. No,
At landlord.society.
At landlord.society.
That's it. Fantastic. Great stuff, guys. We'll see you in our next episode.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Peace.